How to Create a Glitch Monologues Season 5 Chapter 4. This is the fourth episode of Season 5 of How to Create a Glitch in the Matrix Monologues. In this episode 1 we'll be introducing a new concept which draws in a number of other concepts and in a way completes the thought process initiated by our discussions about direct and indirect ground. To start out, the suppositional thought, direct ground, does not necessarily happen because it is grounded. No. For it to be grounded means that if an indirectly grounded thought or reactive action is the expectation and direct ground is the actual result, then the dialectical switch will favor a pathway which does not coincide with reactivity. What this means is, where an attachment is implicated by an interaction, where the energy level of the actor must be reduced by the loss of attachment, the path of dialectical sequence which leads to that loss, being either direct ground, de jure or intellectual loss, versus indirect ground, de facto or actual loss, will favor the pathway of least resistance. In other words, it is possible to conceive of a dialectical sequence of tension as a current in a social system which is closed, just as a closed circuit returns the charge to the returning pathway through the ground, be it direct, through the self, or indirect, through others. In other words, every zero-sum action is either directly grounded or indirectly grounded, which is to say, that it returns to baseline, loss of attachment, via the self, direct, or others, dialectical progression indirect. Likewise, the dialectical progression can be bypassed via holding the supposition and the contingency inside oneself at the same time. Passive concealment is a property of dialectical progression. As the thesis and synthesis are buried in a new synthesis, commingling forever and inseparable, their identity as distinct objects is lost. But the active concealment of negation creates shade by limiting the reactive thoughts of the actor and thereby freeing him or her from the dialectical progression. Now, I've talked about the ground in this analogy, but not the current, which is much more difficult to express, the language being insufficient to the task. Current is merely a balanced, dialectical sequence which enjoins the flow of your reactive and suppositional emotionality into one blended moment. It is passion, fluid, fire. It assumes everything while assuring nothing. As our reactive thoughts are the first scale of our intersection with others in the system providing our interaction via substitution and displacement, one of the four principles of the system, action devoted to disentangling us from the progression via direct ground shows us that our consciousness can be dislocated from an ordered outward-inward direction of causality. Body switching represents merely the transmission of dialectical current through others before it reaches us, via the grounding of indirect ground. That's the end of the podcast for today. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe.